Okay, hello, Mark O'Brien. How are you today?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. What was it like to film The Righteous? The experience itself.
It was the greatest experience of my whole life.
Oh,
It's really hard to get a movie made, so by the time you're actually making it, it's just, for me, it was just pure joy because I couldn't believe I was
mm,
actually getting to do it. Because a
mhm,
lot of the work is just getting to a point in your career, or getting to a point in the script, or getting to a point in development that it's actually going to happen.
mm,
Because so much work goes on before that of trying to just make it happen. So
mm.
experience was certainly daunting, but I felt ready for the challenge. I wouldn't have made the movie if I wasn't ready, so I was never really overwhelmed. I was more just pleased.
Good. So you had fun.
I had the best time. It was amazing, and my wife and my daughter were with me at the time because I shot in Newfoundland. We all came
Mm.
back for it. I was making a movie with old friends, a lot of people I knew for a long time. So it was fun every day. I guess I've been doing this a while now, so as an actor, and so I've learned to like enjoy it all a bit more because you can't be too precious about it because you don't know how many people are going to see the movie if they're going to cut your scenes or whatever. Anyway, you know what I mean? You get used to that, so it's like I might as well just have fun with it.
Yeah, you want to leave a certain room, space for spontaneity, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely. You want to make everyone around you feel comfortable and
Mm,
inspired and excited to do what they're doing because, like I said, we're lucky to do it. So you want to leave that open for everyone to be able to feel liberated and excited, and that's kind of the job a lot of times as a director. It's not just saying action, cut, and walking away. It's leaving everyone with like a high morale.
you wanted them to feel comfortable too, because this is pretty uncomfortable material, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think the best thing a director can do is just make an actor feel like they can try things and they can take chances and they can ask questions.
Mm,
Bad questions. Same thing goes when you're working with crew. It's like I want people to bring stuff to me that they suggest because the movie's not going to be as great if it's just the way I think. It has to be other people's collaboration as well, and that's why I got in this business. I love collaborating, working with people on creating something.
funky. So for me as a viewer, when I watched this back in Fantasia last year, I love thinking in terms of movie references. What does this remind me of? Where does this sit next to? In the canon of film. And for me, one that jumped out was Knife in the Water,
Oh wow, Polanski,
Roman
yeah,
Polanski. That dynamic, right?
yep,
And I was also more recently thinking at the time, the Killing of a Sacred Deer.
yeah. You know
Yeah.
what's funny? When I went to see that in theaters, I'd already written The Righteous, was trying to get it made, and I
Mm,
was like, "Oh, this is like oddly like has parallels to my movie in a way where it's like trying to get someone to do something kind of thing, and who
yeah.
is listening? Can you trust them?" And I suppose that's some sort of taste that I shared with Yorgos Lanthimos. I guess, like I don't know him, and
Mhm.
he's highly regarded in my mind as one of the best filmmakers around.
Oh yeah.
So it just happened to sort of have a
Mhm.
similar kind of vibe, which you can't shy away from. You still got to make your art, even if you see something.
Mhm.
I actually get inspired when I see people making something similar to something I want to make,
Mm.
or has I wouldn't say similar, more like has a connection. I find that
Yeah.
kind of invigorating. I love that film, and I love that filmmaker.
Yeah, they're adjacent. They're not like there's no rip off thing or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could like play, well, I don't know. I mean, I would love to have anything to do with Yorgos Lanthimos, but they could be like they'd be a really cool double bill or something.
Yeah, like Crash and Titan, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So were there any movies like kind of like how do I say this that were kicking around in your head when you were writing it that you weren't saying like I'm trying to make this, but like what were you watching at the time that might have stuck out that might surprise people?
There's so many movies
Yeah.
that inspire me all the time. Sexy Beast is probably the
Nice.
great influence
Yeah.
because it's really someone needling at someone constantly, constantly, constantly. In a
Mm.
crime thriller, we think we know what we're getting into, and then it's totally something artistic. So Sexy Beast was a huge one. Cachet by Michael Haneke, I
Mm.
love. It's nothing like my movie in any way, but it
Mm.
just really left me guessing of what could possibly happen next the whole movie. And his style is very like, reminds me of Bresson a little, like just keeps
Mm.
the camera there and doesn't really move it around much. And you kind of take in these wide vistas. And so, but the things that influence me are a lot of times not even really that similar
Yeah.
to the movie I'm making. Like I love Brian De Palma very much, and it's just so juicy. There's so much juiciness to his movie that you're like, whoa. And Aaron
Mhm.
Sorkin, anything Aaron Sorkin's ever written, like that kind of dialogue, that Patty Chayefsky, the
Mhm.
Hospital Network, a lot of things like that.
Cool, man. What was it? What De Palma movie is The Righteous adjacent to?
Oh,
Body Double.
no, no, I
Yeah.
don't body double. It's a real tough one. I have a soft spot. Sisters in a way,
Mm.
even though the plots aren't the same, it's somehow
Mhm.
sisters. I'm obsessed with Blowout, but
Yeah.
Blowout is nothing like The Righteous. But it's you really just don't know what's going to happen, and it's a paranoid thriller. I love those paranoid thrillers.
Yeah.
I think Blowout's in '81, but in
Yeah.
the '70s there are a lot of great of those Alan Pakula films and stuff like those paranoid thrillers. I love those too. Like my favorite film of all time is The Game, the Fincher movie. I'm just obsessed
Mm.
with that movie, the look, the feel, the plot, everything. So that's why De Palma, but I would say Sisters to some degree, but really Blowout just from because that paranoia.
Nice. Cool,
Yeah.
man. That's great. So, how long did it take you to write the script? And was it ever a disturbing process?
It didn't take me as long as other things I've written, that's for sure, which maybe was why it revealed itself to be something I should make because it really just kind of streamlined, just kind of came out.
Mm.
I think it was only a few months. It was pretty quick. I mean, the drafts change and change and change all the way up until while you're shooting, it's changing. But like, yeah, it wasn't too long. It was probably like a
Mm.
couple months. And no, it wasn't like it's weird. I'm kind of
Yeah.
a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, but I didn't find it disturbing. I like twisting the knife and making things really heady and cerebral. And I'm
Mhm.
kind of obsessed with conflicts of what would you do if that and then that? Oh my God, how would you handle that? There's no way out. And I think that comes from pay attention to writers over the years. Like even Vince Gilligan used to say that about Breaking Bad. It's like write yourself in a corner where you're like, how is Walter White going to figure this out now? You
Mm.
don't even know what they'll do. So I love a conflict that leaves an impossible outcome. You're like, I don't
Mm.
know how it's possibly going to work. Because if you know the outcome, then it should be an action movie. So you should be
Mhm.
entertained while we're getting to it. Otherwise, I think we should not know how they're going to get there. And a lot of movies, unfortunately, I think we do know how they're going to get
Interesting. I've talked to a lot of horror directors over the years, and I hear different responses to that question. Sometimes it's what you're saying, more of a technical approach, and then some people they bleed into the scripts.
Yeah, I think a
No.
part of you always bleeds into the script. Like,
Yeah.
you can't help it. Like, things are foundational. Like, the things that affect you will affect you your whole life, whether you know it or not. It's
Right.
just it becomes a part of you because it's information you've received or you physically felt or whatever that case, or something you saw or heard. So our senses really like this is really weird. I've never talked about this before, really, but
Mm.
I studied. I'm an English major and a classics minor, and I was one course away from having a double minor in philosophy, and I really like David Hume a lot.
Yeah,
He's
he's cool.
yeah, he talked about the senses a lot. Everything was about the
Mm.
senses, and I really think that senses like seep into your body, and then now it's a part of it, and that's just what it is.
Mhm.
Um, and so those experiences always are going to come out in what you're writing in ways that you probably didn't even see it. There's a moment in the movie. There's a part of the movie where I talk about throwing rocks in water, and it's kind of this weird story, and it kind of goes off. My older sister used to take me and do that when I was younger. And when she saw the movie, she was like, "Oh my God," and because it turned it into this crazy thing. But I was like, she was like, "Did you hate that when you were younger?" I was like, "No, it was actually a pleasurable experience." But
Mhm.
that experience made sense to create upon it in a different way.
Okay. So you don't need an answer to this question beyond just because I like it, but why did you go black and white?
Because when I was writing it, it was the way it was in my head. It
Mhm.
was the way it was coming out. And then it also became clearer to me that this is really from a subconscious point of view
Mhm.
for the lead character Frederick, played by Henry Tierney. And your consciousness is black and white. It's indecipherable. So you're not sure what's coming around the corner. Guillermo del Toro has a great quote where he said, "As soon as you see something in black and white, you know it's a metaphor." And I think that
Mm.
because you know this isn't real life. So as soon as you know this isn't real life, this isn't what we see every day, anything can kind of happen. And I like creating a world where there are no rules. In this movie, it's set in no time, no place. So that
Mhm.
anything can happen. And I think
Mhm.
that that rests within the viewer in a way they're not probably conscious of, but you're sitting back being like, I don't really know what's going on.
Mhm.
To me, I love that. I love knowing what's going on in the plot, but not knowing what's going to happen in 5 seconds.
Mm. Cool. So have you had people like viscerally upset with you that you went for black and white?
No, I think in the beginning, trying to get
Yeah.
the movie made, it was
Yeah.
It's pretty tough. There's this
Mm,
notion. I mean, everyone who came aboard the movie, our distributors, Vortex, Arrow, and other producers, everybody, they were all on board.
mhm,
But when you're trying to make the movie before that, and you're just in different ways, you're always trying to make the movie and pitching it and blah 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 blah. There's this weird reaction that people have. Oh, black and white doesn't sell, and black and white this, black and white that.
mm,
It's like
right.
perhaps true to some degree, but this movie would not be near what it is if it was in color. It just wouldn't. It would. It would. I think it would fall by the wayside to some degree. So but that's all just because I listened to my creative inspiration from the beginning. It was my instinct and I went with it. And I think, and that was the reason why. And I just stuck to that as opposed to trying to make a statement with it or anything. It was just, that's just the way it is in my head.
Interesting. And are there any recent movies shot in black and white, like maybe 30, 40 years, that inspired this decision?
Well, not the particular decision, but
Yeah.
certainly movies. There are certain movies that I really just love the look of
Mm.
so much. A lot of them are the Universal horror movies, as in
Yeah.
horror movies. I love those, like the Mummy, the Creature from Black Lagoon,
Mhm.
like Hollow Man, like all those, or the Invisible Man. Sorry, all
Yeah.
those movies are big influence on me. There's a certain look to them, and then there's like Night of the Hunter, which a lot of people reference with this movie. Day of
Mhm.
Wrath, the Dreyer film. There are, even up to Citizen Kane. Why not? Like there
Mhm.
are, but I'm a big fan of the film noir of the 40s and 50s, and
Yeah.
particularly um, the work of this great cinematographer named John Alton. And he did,
Okay.
he did these great movies with Anthony Mann, a great director. So a lot of those like stark and kind of harsh, those films have a huge effect on me. Also, Touch of Evil, Orson Welles
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean there are numerous, there are many.
But what I mean, like, there's I don't know, I know there's a lot of many of the great movies are shot in black and white, but I mean, like, was there like a Raging Bull or like a Pie, or was there like a more recent movie
There
that?
oh, a recent movie,
Yeah.
I always loved the way Pi was done. I don't like handheld so much, but
Yeah.
I loved Pi had a big effect on me as a young man.
Mhm.
Like, Pi
Yeah.
just hit me really, really hard because he did something that was totally different, and the look of it, like you say, is still distinctive. I haven't seen a movie shot like Pi since, and it's black and white. There's only so many shades you can go, but there's something about that movie. Raging Bull was always one of my favorite films, but for this
Yeah.
film, I did think about Pi quite a bit. And even though we didn't use that style, it was just the way it hit me had a large impact. And I'm sure, look, I think that movie was $165,000 budget or something, but
Yeah.
I guarantee you, he still had to fight people on having it in black and white. People probably put it in color, and that movie stands the test of time largely because of the way it was shot.
Oh, hell yeah. Sorry, just one more that pops into my head. I was wondering if you're a fan of Tetsuo the Iron Man.
I no, what is that?
Oh shit! It's actually on Arrow Video. I
Is
know
it?
this movie's on Arrow. It's by a Japanese filmmaker named Shina Tsukamoto, and it's about a guy who turns into metal, and it's very phallic. And
Oh wow, I'm looking
to
it up
me,
right
I think it inspired Pie. I don't know that though. I know
now.
that
Wow.
Aronofsky likes Japanese movies. He was going to do like Lone Wolf and Cub at one point. Um,
What's the name of it again? I'm gonna look it up right now, just so I know.
Tetsuo, so Tetsuo. This is always fun. The Iron Man.
Okay, I have it. Okay, I'm gonna seek this out. Oh
Hell yeah,
God,
man.
look at the pictures. Oh my God, it looks so. I like.
It's extreme, yes.
Good Lord in heaven. Yeah, I see that connection. Interesting. I haven't seen it. I'll have to check it out.
Okay, well, this is always fun. With this happening live, this is fun. So, did you have fun being in Arrival?
Oh yeah. I mean, Denis
Yeah,
Villeneuve is one of the best directors in the world.
yeah.
That was that movie had a large effect on me. Obviously, I liked being in it because it was working with crazy, amazing people. But that movie had a big effect on me as a filmmaker because he does something that few filmmakers do. The Coen brothers, maybe David O. Russell,
Mhm.
but he does something that is he takes something that you think you know, like an alien arrival, and he turns it into something else. Blade Runner, you think it's gonna be like a sci-fi action movie, he turns it into something else. Same thing with Dune.
Mhm.
And he did it with Prisoners. Like he puts his own touch on something you think you already know, and that really spurred a lot within me, just even being a part of it and watching him. And he's also such a gentleman and such a kind person that I learned a lot about. Like I think I've always been professional, but he conducts himself on set in such a direct, strong voiced way that is also the softest and gentlest human
Hmm.
ever. It's such a great combination. And I learned so much just watching him, getting to know him.
That's fantastic. I'm
Yeah.
sure that you're going to remember that for the rest of your life.
I will. I will. He's the greatest.
Okay. So how did you react the first time seeing yourself in The Righteous? The first frame, seeing yourself in black and white.
Well, in the edit room, it was just like, all right, how do we make these
All
scenes
right.
work? But in
Yeah.
the theater, I at Fantasia, I saw it in the theater,
Yeah.
and I didn't notice my performances at all because I was just
Mhm.
like, whoa, this is so wild. I'm watching my own movie in a theater. Like, I literally was just a child. I turned into a little boy,
Ah,
and that was really the experience. To be honest, I was just so pleased. And this is like what I was talking about earlier. I don't mean to sound preachy or something, but I really mean
mhm.
it. Like once you get to do this job, there's so many people who we forget how lucky we are to do this job at all. Like it's a crazy, it's fun, it's pretend. And then once you get into it a bit more and you can actually make statements and you can change people's lives. And to me, that's like just so empowering, so wonderful. So when I was sitting in the theater watching it, I was just like, this is what I've dreamed of my whole life. And to
Ah,
be honest, like I'll probably if I'm so lucky to make a second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th
mhm,
movie,
mhm.
I honestly think I'll feel like that every single time because it gives me endless joy. So it was the greatest experience that I've had in a movie theater. Really, I was like, wow.
Well, it's nice that you could, you can appreciate the moment.
Yeah.
You're not
We
gonna let it slip past you.
and it's not about like, I almost sound like Ed Wood over here, but like, like I love my movie, it's great. But it's more to me, it was about it when I finished the movie, I said, I don't know if that's good or bad. That's not up to me to decide. It's the movie I wanted to make. And I'm so
Okay.
happy I got to make the movie I wanted to make. So to share it with people and to watch it with people, it's great. And if they like it or they don't, it doesn't. Of course, you want people to like it, but it's
Yeah,
not up to me. So I'm not concerned with that. I'm just concerned with showing it and sharing it.
that's beautiful. Thank you very much for your time, Mark. The movie comes to my city, Ottawa, Ontario, at the Mayfair Theater, and I'm gonna tell people to watch it. I want you to have a nice day.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michael.
All right, take care.